As he introduced, we'll be speaking about maximizing your ROI from your mobile marketing campaigns. I think 2015 is definitely a year where mobile will equal or probably overtake a lot of the web stuff that you guys are doing. Just show of hands, how many operator or affiliate managers are in the room? Affiliates? Cool. So presentation's a little bit geared towards how an operator is going to get their ROI. That being said, as an affiliate, you'll want to look for operators that work like this in order to promote those mobile brands. At the end of the day, you'll be getting more out of working with them than you will working with someone who doesn't pay attention to a lot of these points. Sorry, it seems to be moving on its own. So pretty much we broke down ROI into three sections: acquisition, conversion, and retention. I think acquisition and conversion are very similar. They're kind of blurred, but you'll see why we break it down into three different sections. At the end of the day, you need to kind of segment what you're doing, and you need to concentrate on one area at a time in order to maximize the ROI from your campaigns. So a little bit of a roadmap for the session. We're going to talk about acquisition, followed by conversion, then retention, and then I'm going to go back and recap the big picture. Obviously, the goal here is to understand where ROI comes from and how to effectively report on it. So two important notes, like I just said, understanding that there's blurred lines between acquisition, conversion, and retention. We all understand that. That being said, sorry about this, guys. It seems to be moving on its own. And also understanding, it's vitally important to segment each of these and to not kind of look at your whole strategy together and try to get the most out of it. So just some numbers up here in terms of mobile by the numbers. You can look at it. I thought one of the most intriguing ones here was the fact that, yeah, so what I was saying, one of the coolest points that I came across when doing some research, obviously at Income Access, if you've seen a lot of the publication pieces we put out this year, we've obviously concentrated quite a lot on mobile, was the fact that online casino brands' mobile revenue rose to 49% of their total turnover in 2014. I think that's huge. I started in the industry, I would say, about 4 years ago, and it was nowhere close to this number. So clearly, mobile is coming up very quickly, and it's something to keep an eye on. You can see some other stats from Paddy Power, Skybet, William Hill. Mobile is huge for each of those. In terms of acquisition, we'll start there. Knowing your average player lifetime value is key. So, just going into a campaign saying I want to make money, you're going to struggle a little bit to figure out how you want to get there. In terms of knowing your average player lifetime value, if you're a new brand, do your research, find out what averages are, find out kind of where you fit into the industry. If you're an existing brand, how often do you do that analysis? How often do you figure out, what your lifetime value is? Quarterly? Do you do it yearly? It's really going to help you figure out, what you should be aiming for in terms of the CPA on your average players. More importantly, mobile traffic, it's continuing to increase in price. Obviously, 3 or 4 years ago, it was much cheaper than web traffic. Now you talk to some brands, it's around the same, maybe a little bit lower right now. What you will be hearing is that mobile traffic is much more, at this point, profitable, much more turnover, much more revenue coming from their mobile campaigns. So I think that's really important to note, is that even as player acquisition costs rise, their player values are higher. So if you have an average CPA that's similar to your web traffic, but your value on that player is much higher, you end up getting much more ROI from a campaign as opposed to web. Obviously, sources of traffic are organic, PPC. Mobile networks are becoming huge, and a lot of affiliate softwares are able to track them. Social sharing is becoming huge, especially for mobile brands to engage with players. And App Store optimization. Obviously, there's a whole lot going on in the app world, and making sure that you're visible in the App Store. It's sometimes difficult for betting brands, but there are ways to optimize it, and I'm happy to talk about that if you guys want to come by our booth afterwards. More importantly than all that, get targeted. At the end of the day, if you're shooting blindly at traffic, then you're going to have a little bit of trouble of controlling your CPA. So make sure you're getting as targeted as you can. It's going to increase your player quality, obviously. It's going to lower your long-term CPA costs. I know a lot of you are probably saying targeted traffic, it's going to cost me more. Yes, but at the end of the day, you're going to be wasting less money on untargeted campaigns that aren't converting. So if you're spending your money in the right places, you're going to get a better ROI in the long term, as opposed to, if 30 or 40% of your spend is going to wasted traffic, then, you're wasting a little bit of money there, and you're not going to get as good of a cost per acquisition per player. And obviously, in order to do this, keeping good analytics is very, very important. Going into conversion, like I said, acquisition and conversion are the same. Some people might say, you know, I'm acquiring a player, I need them to sign up and deposit. That's what I consider an acquisition, but obviously to split it up, we'll talk about conversion now. There's two types of conversion. Obviously, once someone clicks and then they register, and someone who registers and goes to deposit. So for a click to registration part, you're obviously, and this is a lot similar to web, but for mobile, there's some key differences. Obviously, messaging needs to be consistent. Huge for mobile is responsiveness and ease of use for the registration process. So, you know, when you're on a computer and you're typing, it's much easier to put in, you know, 10 or 15 fields in order to sign up. When you're on your mobile device, I don't know about you guys personally, if I have to fill more than 3 or 4 slots in, I'm moving on, I'm going somewhere else. It is easier to type on the mobile devices. They're bigger now, but it's still a little bit frustrating to go through 2 or 3 pages of a sign-up process. And you're starting to see a lot of mobile brands, their sign-up is, you know, name, email address, and then you move on from there. Your bonuses and your promotions need to match your audience. Obviously, you know, if you're a bingo brand, you know, something that converts well is give a, you know, deposit £5, get 25. There are not a lot of players who like, you know, 100% deposit matches up to a certain amount. It's confusing. For players who aren't looking to deposit 100 or 200 pounds right away, you'd much prefer to give them an offer that is very clear. They know what they need to do to convert it and to get it out. And then targeting, you know, as you're targeting your ads, you have to be targeting your landing pages. So you want your traffic that's coming from a certain type of affiliate to match the landing page you're going to. And especially for mobile, you want to have simple landing pages, simple messaging, you know, not a lot of clutter. Really, I get there, I know what you're giving me, and I move on. Now we go to registration to deposit. I think for mobile, the most important thing is having flexible payment methods. You know, there's been mobile campaigns where brands, you know, don't have a lot of different payment methods, and it's a little bit tough for players as you click through to decide, you know, I don't have any of these payment methods. I'd rather get paid. You know, there used to be being paid by phone bill, which was very, very important. A lot of players enjoyed it. So making sure that you have a myriad of them and that you have something for each player that comes through is going to be really important. Obviously, currencies and that stuff as well. You know, make sure that you can pay out in the currency of the markets that you're promoting in. CRM is huge as well, especially in mobile, device-specific CRM, consistent messaging, making it creative, keeping it engaging. You want to make sure that, you know, when you're converting a player on mobile, that, you know, if they see it on an iPhone, they see it on an Android, or you want to call, you know, they see it on an iPad, that it's device-specific, it fits the screen properly, and they're getting what they need out of it. And like we said before, bonus and promotions need to match your audience. You know, if an offer isn't converting a player, what else can you offer that doesn't bust your budget is very important. So you might have a certain offer that you're going publicly with, and you have a player come through and they're not converting. Would you rather just leave that player there and you've already paid for them? Or, you know, give them a little bit extra, and if it's inside your budget, at the end of the day, you're still making money and you're not wasting that player. So now that you have the player, obviously keeping them engaged and retained is very, very, very important. So right from the beginning, you want to identify your ideal player. So for you, for your brand, what is the player that you're trying to get? If you're doing campaigns and you're not really sure of the player quality you're looking for, you're not sure of the demographics of the player you're going for, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to get targeted. So, you know, you want to concentrate on these types of players, you know, looking up metrics like frequency of play, volume of deposits, wagers, etc. I think is very important, especially in mobile. And social engagement. You know, you have your player in, they're playing, but at the end of the day, what's going to keep them coming back to you? So where can you engage with them outside of your product? For example, a lot of brands do very well on social media. They have their players engaged through Twitter. They have their players engaged through Facebook. They have their players engaged in offline promotions where, you know, they do a competition, have players come engage with the brand. You really want, at the end of the day, through social sharing, you're going to boost your retention, but it's also going to stimulate your acquisition. So if I'm enjoying your brand and I have a friend who I think would really like it and he sees me post it on Facebook, then I'm going to come and want to play it as well. So, you know, engaging outside of your brand with your players is key. They're some of your best advocates. They're the players who play your game. They understand it more than anyone. And if they enjoy it, they're really going to get the word out there for you. In terms of mobile, I think probably the most important thing for retention is cross-platform play. So if I sign up through my mobile device, I want to be able to sign into my desktop and play. I want to be able to go on my iPod and play, on my iPad and play. And at the end of the day, you know, what's really, really important for that is having a shared wallet. There's some brands who don't have shared wallet across products, so you sign up for casino, and then I try to go play sports or place a bet on sports on my computer, and I can't bet because I don't have any money in my account, and I need to redeposit and reconfirm. At the end of the day, why not just go sign up to another brand? So you want to make sure that your players can go cross-platform, they can play cross-product, and it's going to lead to much higher engagement, and at the end of the day, much higher player values. So if I'm a casino player and I sign up to a brand and you're sending me an offer for sportsbook that's engaging with what I want to do, I might bet there, and then you're going to get much more ROI from those type of players than if you're just trying to sell them on one product. Going on to retention as well, mobile analytics are very, very important. So when we're talking about apps, and I think there's a session after this on it, you want to make sure that in your app you can identify your players and the CRM they require, and then giving them that messaging. So like an example here, if you have a player who's been inactive for 15 days, send a push notification, hey, you sign up for our app, we know you're interested, what do we have to get you playing? So your first offer might have been for casino 100% up to 150 pounds, and then I'm going to give you 150 because you haven't converted yet. I've already paid for you to come to my product, you've already downloaded it. I got to get you engaged quickly because 30 days goes by, they forget about you, that app's deleted, and you've paid money for nothing. So you want to make sure that you're effective in what you're communicating for them, and again, making sure that it goes with the device that they're on. And really important in terms of tracking engagement, what's working and what's not working. So in your app, where are players clicking the most, what sections of your app are they playing the most, and making sure that you're improving those sections and improving the sections that aren't working as well. In terms of reload bonuses and VIP schemes, keep your good players spending and keep your bonus players engaged. So, if you have a VIP player who's spending a lot every single day, you want to be giving them bonuses. You want to be sending them notifications, hey, we have this new product, we have this new bonus for you, we want to keep you spending. If you have players who come through on a bonus and they don't convert very well, what can you do to get these players to play a little bit more and to spend more money is really important. So thinking about these two types of players and the different messaging. Biggest mistake you can make is sending your VIP players who spend a lot of money same messaging, same bonus as someone who came in, took a 5 free pound bet and didn't come back. You're not going to convert someone who spends a lot of money on a tiny offer, and you're not going to convert someone who doesn't spend money on a 300% up to 1,000 pounds. You got to make sure your messaging is consistent for each of those. And it gives you additional time to get your players engaged with your brand. If someone bets once and leaves, they're not very engaged. If there's someone who's betting, weekly or every day over the span of a month, and they get really comfortable with you, likelihood of them staying with you and being loyal is very high. Looking at the big picture, one thing that's really, really important if you're talking about mobile or even any of your acquisition strategies is being able to track all of your acquisition in one central location. So for any operators in the room, I think you know how frustrating it is to have to log into 3 or 4 different analytics tools to see, my app's performing this well, my mobile acquisition's performing like this, my web acquisition's performing this way. At the end of the day, if you are able to log into one location and see, my mobile ROI is much higher than my web, I should be concentrating more budget here, it's going to make more sense. For things like Google Analytics, it's great to see conversions, where players are going, but at the end of the day, it's hard to match that with financial data. So you want to make sure you have a system where you can log in and see all that broken down by the sites that are promoting you, broken down by the channels that you have, and it's going to make it a lot easier for you to allocate spend after that. And it's at the end of the day, you're making quicker, better, more informed decisions based on ROI, which is key. You don't kind of want to be sitting there and not really understand where your traffic's coming from or where you should be spending your money. If you have it all in one central location, it's very easy to pull reports and see where you should be spending your money. Re-emphasizing targeting is key. The more targeted you're going to get, the lower cost per acquisition you're going to pay long term, and the higher your ROI is going to be. So yes, it's more difficult at the beginning. You need to spend more money up front in order to get better targeted traffic. But at the end of the day, like I said earlier, you're not going to be, losing a ton of revenue on players who don't convert or players who don't spend a lot of money. And like we said before, it's even more important for mobile, effectively communicating at a device level for a positive user experience. On web, user experience is very, very important, but even more so on mobile. If your app's slow, if your mobile page has a lot of clutter, if I'm not able to find what I need on my mobile device, odds are I'm moving on. On a web, you have a much bigger screen. You're able to lay it out a little bit easier. If there's more clutter, I can probably break through it a little bit easier. But on my phone, if I can't get what I need right away, I'm kind of speaking for everyone, but I'm gone from that and I'm going somewhere else. So, I guess big picture also, work with the end in mind. You always want to work backwards from your budget. So you first need to understand what your budget is before you can start wondering what you're going to pay in terms of CPA costs. You obviously want to make sure, that when you're a new brand starting, that your budget's quite high. I think one of the big reasons for failure for some brands is you come into the marketplace, let's say for an affiliate program, for example, and you're going to be paying base rev share to everyone. You're not flexible in terms of doing bespoke offers, and it's very, very hard to break through the clutter. 4 or 5 years ago on mobile, there wasn't many products out there. If your product was very good, it stood for itself. Now everyone or most people have great products, so you need to be making sure that you have the budget up front to get that traffic. Very key. One thing I didn't touch on earlier is maximizing your ROI isn't just about getting traffic and sourcing it. It's obviously your product needs to be up to par. With how competitive the industry is now, you can spend thousands or millions of dollars, and if your product isn't good, then you're going to struggle. So making sure that your acquisition teams sit in meetings with your product teams, very key. We deal with obviously a lot of companies, and we see the ones who are the most successful are ones who have weekly meetings with their product teams, meeting with their acquisition guys, because at the end of the day, your acquisition guys know exactly what your market wants. They're speaking to affiliates who really understand your product and understand the market, and they can give your product guys feedback on what they should be doing. Having those separate is going to make it a little more difficult to be successful. And obviously, from the beginning, understanding your acquisition goals and your CPA goals and not going above that. So while you need to be aggressive, you obviously need to make money to be sustainable. And for affiliates, you can throw out these great offers, but if you can't pay them at the end of the month, you're not going to be successful long term. So you need to make sure you keep your budget in mind. And like we said, user experience is king on mobile. If I don't go to an app and I'm not engaged right away, or I don't go to a mobile website and I'm not engaged right away, I'm going to go somewhere else. There's so much competition in the industry that you really got to be looking at how you keep your players right from the moment they click through, and that's how you're going to get the most ROI. Any questions?
All right, let's get some questions for Alan. I know I have a few. Should I start?
Sorry for the slides going back and forth, by the way. That was not intended.
It's not a problem. Not a problem. You're saying mobile for 2015. Is it mobile taking over in 2015, or are we already there?
I think we are on the cusp of it taking over. I would say we're probably right there. I think 2014 was the year that really, you had no choice but to be in mobile. You couldn't be a brand who was relying solely on web. I think in 2015, it's going to become even more apparent. It's going to be, you can't just be a sole web product or not put much money or effort into your mobile product to be successful.
What markets is it most important? Asia, the US, Europe, South America?
All of them. I would say South America, just going by market, South America has seen huge upgrades in the amount of people using smartphones. You've seen it in Africa as well. I've spoken to some brands who have tried to get African traffic because there's an influx of people using smartphones who have never used them before, and they're able to go after that market for relatively cheap because there's not much competition. So, and obviously in the Asian market, smartphones are huge. So, I would say everywhere. If you're looking to lower your cost of acquisition, I would say think outside of Europe. If you're able to accept those players and you're licensed in those markets, at the end of the day, you might be able to get some cheaper traffic that's decent quality, but you need to be able to be effective in each market, I would say.
Is anyone here an African affiliate, an affiliate to any of the African sites? No, it's kind of an interesting aside that you said that, Alan. A few years ago in Amsterdam, we had a delegation come in from, I think it was Nigeria, and they sent 3 people, and the head of one of them was like the head of the gaming control board there, which I didn't even know existed, but there is one, trust me. At least that's what they said they were. But they wanted us to do a conference in Africa, and they wanted us to do one in Lagos. And I said, well, why would we possibly want to do one there? I didn't know there was anything going on in Africa. And apparently mobile sports betting is absolutely massive. And it is all mobile, like you say. It's only mobile penetration.
I actually met an African affiliate in Barcelona. And
Yeah.
It was kind of like pulled it back. I was like, wow, he's...
And then the neighboring countries wanted to do it too. Now, obviously, we didn't do the conference because I know you guys, and I know everyone here would get kidnapped because they go out and get too drunk. But but it was very nice of them. They offered us up an armed soldier for each person that attended the conference. So it's that big. The government really, really wants this to take off, and they're really behind it. So if you want to be an African affiliate, then you can get a soldier to walk behind you in case you get too drunk and might get kidnapped. Now, you didn't go into much detail on mobile ad networks, but I'd like you to go a little bit more into detail and tell us a little bit about the CPAs we can expect from a big, say, European mobile ad network, the lifetime expected values, and what are some of the big mobile ad networks that we could look at if we want to get started?
So I think in terms of CPAs, obviously when you engage with a lot of them, you're paying out based on a CPM, so you need to be comfortable doing that. In terms of average CPAs, it really depends on your product. When you first engage with them, they're going to tell you, I can't give you a target CPA, so that's one thing to note. They're not going to give you an idea right away of what you're going to be paying for your traffic. They're going to say, we'll send you the clicks, we'll send you the views, and then it's your job to convert it. Obviously, if you're looking at ad networks for UK traffic, you can be paying CPMs 7, 8, 9, 10 pounds, more than that. If you're looking at some secondary markets like Germany and those markets, you could be paying between 3 and 5. So it really depends on where you're getting your traffic for that. I do think that they're incredibly important, first of all, because of the reach that they get. Google's doing a lot of stuff with mobile as well, so it depends what you're looking for. I do think you need to kind of have a balanced acquisition portfolio, and you could get tons of traffic for them. So, you might not see tons of ROI right at the beginning because you're gonna have to spend to see what's gonna convert, but yeah, I would say you should definitely take a look at it, assign some budget to it. A lot of them you'll also, if you're not paying CPM, you can pay, for app, you can pay per install. You can pay CPLs for registrations. We see that in social quite a lot. We're doing a lot in the income access in terms of our social network, and we're working with a lot of brands on CPLs, so it works out for those type of traffic because obviously first deposits are in the $5 range, so you're not, you don't mind paying $1 CPL and seeing where it goes. For betting brands, it's a little bit different, but you're looking probably in the 5 to 10 pounds CPM range for them, and they'll back out into whatever CPA you're looking for, but obviously, quality of that traffic is going to depend on what you're willing to pay. So if your CPA you're looking for is 100 pounds or 120, you're obviously not going to get the same quality traffic than if you're willing to pay 300.
Some audience questions? No, I got a couple more then. You talked about the importance of simple messaging. Is it more important to have a simple message for a mobile offer because of the type of player that you're going after than for the web, or would you suggest your more clear offers, say 25 pounds for 25-pound deposit, also as a strategy that you would use on your web marketing rather than going for that 100-pound match deposit?
So in terms of offers, I think they're kind of equivalent. You can have your same offer on mobile as you're having on web, as long as it's targeted to that traffic. So for that example, for bingo, having a small deposit with a defined money back is key. If you're looking at casino, having match deposits of percentages works. I think for mobile, more in terms of messaging is having it smaller, not having as much clutter, having less wording is very important. You're kind of more distracted on your mobile phone and you'll leave something quicker than you would on web. So if your messaging isn't very clear, here's what you're getting right away and I need to search for it, I'm gonna go somewhere else a little bit quicker than I would on my computer because I have a bigger screen, I'm able to see offers a little bit more clearly. And you obviously don't have as much space when you're displaying it on a mobile, so you wanna make sure that it's concise and targeted. But obviously for web as well. Are
your mobile players more or less valuable than your web players?
From everyone I've spoken to this year, they're more valuable.
Are they more valuable on mobile or are they more valuable cross-platform?
Cross-platform. But the reason why, first of all, for mobile, you have your phone everywhere you go. You're on the bus, you're walking somewhere, you're in a break between class, you're on your lunch at work. I can pick up my phone and play. Brands who allow for cross-platform betting, which most do, I've spoken to some who don't have shared wallets, which I think is very, very key. You're obviously going to have higher player values when I can go home and play on my computer, I can go out and play on my cell phone. I think that's absolutely key, is the fact that you can play cross-platform and you're going to get much higher value. But I've spoken to some who just offer mobile and they're seeing really high player values for it.
And And again, any audience questions? No? Then finally, I've asked this at a lot of different shows, and I don't normally get a very straight answer, so you might not have the data. It just might not be out there. But what are you seeing for values and acquisition costs on tablet versus phablet versus phone?
I don't have the answer.
I'm going to look that up next time myself.
That being said, it's hard to differentiate between tablet and web. Google doesn't, so it's a little bit tough to see the acquisition cost differences. I would assume they're probably more similar to your web acquisition cost than they would be to your mobile, just simply because, I mean, some people do, but I'm not carrying around my iPad everywhere and signing up to brands while I'm walking or while I'm on the bus. But yeah, I would say they're probably more similar to web than they are to mobile.
And finally, I always like to give a takeaway or two. The mobile ad networks, can you just name, say, two that you think are large and incredible?
We've been dealing a lot in the US, so I'm trying to think of anyone that you guys would know.
Get your pens out.
Pardon me?
Get your pens out.
I can actually, I'm more than happy if you guys come by the booth to send you guys a whole list of them. I'm trying to blank right now.
Okay, we'll get them directly from you.
Yes, you will, absolutely.
Put them together. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Alan.